Hey guys, I am just gonna test if the live is working. This is the first time I'm going live using an app called Studio Stream, and it's live in like several different places right now, so I'm kind of scared. It's live on YouTube and TikTok, Incendiary Balloons TikTok and Incendiary Balloons Media. But let me just check. I have my laptop with me. Hold on, y'all. I gotta check to make sure the audio is good. We gotta do a tech check, make sure everything is good. I really cannot see, like, I don't know how this works, but we'll figure it out. Let me test to see if it's on. 1 second. Oh, it says live. Okay, let me check to see if the audio is working. Hold on. Hello, testing, testing. Hello. Okay, I don't know if this. Oh, wait, let me see. It's on. Testing. Oh, it says live. Okay, let me check. All right, the audio is working. Let me check TikTok and see if it's working on TikTok. 1 second. I did not realize that it appears like that on Restream. Hey, I have a viewer. Hey, we're going to be talking about a lot in this. I kind of want to name this live. I don't know if I can name the live. 1 second. I'm sorry. But we're going to be getting into a lot of things, a lot of things, a lot of information, a lot of tea. So just bear with me, please. Let me put, I don't think I can even change it. 1 second. I'm trying to get set up. Anyway, I don't think I can get set up, so I'm just going to get straight into it. So, hello. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Today, I am going to talk about a lot of different things. But first, I'm going to start with just talking about the impact that Trump's immigration policy. I say immigration in quotations because we all know that it's not a policy. It's just sort of this very fastest, um, evil playbook that he's going by, right? So we're not actually seeing any real policy. We are just seeing kind of like a playbook from past dictators and past people who have caused destruction. And I'm going to be talking about how his immigration policy, in particular, the real world effects that it's having on immigrant communities, and the effects that it's having on non immigrant communities. I'm also going to be talking about Trump's meeting that he had with Zelensky and how this kind of ties back into media optics and ties back into his whole sort of media agenda. And I'm going to break down what that media agenda is and just like the impacts that it's been having. On top of that, I'm also going to be talking about, I'm going to be drawing parallels between Trump, his policies, Mussolini's, Hitler, Stalin, and Pol Pot because he is copying word for word, um, bar for bar. He's literally copying bar for bar, band for band, what these dictators have been doing. So I'm gonna get into that. I wonder if I can before I get into that, I just want to see if I can change the background on this. This is my first time using Restream, so I don't really like this purple thing that's up here. I just want to change it, but um, bear with me 1 second and then we're going to start unpacking and we're going to start doing a real deep dive into all of this. I just want to make sure the tech is set up the correct way so that you guys can have a good watching experience. Um, 1 second. Hold on. Okay. So let me set this up the right way. Yes. Okay, I got it. Okay, period. Period. We got it. We got it. We got it. Okay. Now, let me try this way. Does it work that way? I don't even know. This is working. Hold on one sec. Sorry. News. Does that work? Bear with me, guys. 1 second. Let's do this. Okay. And I'm going to change the background. Hey guys, if you're just joining, oh no. If you're just joining, I am trying to set up, I'm having some tech difficulties, but I am trying to set up my restream and I'm about to start talking about Trump and just his harmful impacts and what he's been doing. So just bear with me for a second, please. Hold on 1 second. I don't know what I just did. This is crazy. Hold on. I've never used this before, so yeah, I got it. Okay, good, good, good. And let me change the background. 1 second. We're about to get into the tea. We're about to get into the tea. Okay, I changed the design. Cool. Um, yeah. I think I'm just gonna leave it like that for now, honestly. So anyway, the first thing that I said that I was going to talk about was Trump's immigration policy and how it is basically being used as a tool for like so many different things. It's so layered. So first I want to get into the impact. So we're seeing a lot of impacts that Trump's immigration policy is having on immigrant communities specifically. And one major thing that I'm noticing just through conversation, whether speaking through immigration, whether speaking to like immigration lawyers or speaking to people who are working with different organizations like First Friends and different organizations that are working to help incarcerated people or organizations that are working to help immigrant communities, one thing that I'm noticing is that we're seeing a lower rise in people who are showing up to, receive basic things like healthcare and health access. And in particularly, the reason why that is such a low rise is because Trump is really instilling fear in a lot of communities where they feel like and rightfully so, a lot of people are saying, like, hey, I don't feel safe showing up to this healthcare facility because ICE is doing so many dirty tactics. One of the dirty tactics being that ICE is pretending to be pizza delivery people. They're kind of falsely identifying themselves. They're trying to arrest people without a warrant, which is illegal. It doesn't matter if you have and it doesn't matter if you have an arrest record, it doesn't matter if you have an immigration status, you cannot arrest somebody without a specific record. I'm sorry, without a specific warrant. So ICE is doing these really dirty, illegal tricks. And one of the major problems with that is that now people are afraid to show up to the doctors. They're afraid to show up to get treatment. They're afraid to show up to get the services and the things that they need, whether that is education. They're not showing up to schools because they don't know where ICE is, and that is one of the main tactics that Hitler used during his Nazi regime. Right, when Hitler was in power, before he started the killings, it was kind of like a gradual process. It was a gradual process that led up to what we're seeing today. And you know, it's sad because America has always kind of been a fascist state. We all know this. America was founded on fascism, it was founded on colonialism, it was founded on imperialism. We know this, right? But we are starting to show early stages of being the same as 1930s Germany. And the reason why I say that is because this is the same gradual incline that Hitler did in early 1930s Germany before the Nazi Party really rose to prominence. This was how they did it. They instilled fear in people. They instilled fear in communities of being visible in public. And that's the first right that they kind of stripped away from anybody who wasn't a Nazi, or wasn't, didn't believe in Aryan, that BS. So, um, yeah, we're seeing it today. Like just through conversations, I'm hearing that people are afraid to, show up if they have like life-threatening injuries, afraid to go to the doctors, the hospitals, get their treatment, their medications. Like this is affecting disabled people as well because disabled people are, not being able to get the access and the things that they need. So, um, we're really, really just seeing how this is becoming history repeating itself, where people are afraid to walk through those doors because ICE is kind of making themselves this omnipresent force, right? They're making themselves this force that seems like you'll never be safe anywhere, which is not true. It's not the reality, but that's what they're trying to do to instill fear. And like fear is half the agenda, right? They are doing horrible things. They are doing terrible things in real life, but they're also trying to set a precedence of fear so that they can do, 80% of the bad work, and then the other 20% that they haven't gotten to yet will be rooted out through, people just being afraid to go to the services that they need, or be in public spaces, or just be in a living, breathing person in America. It's just classic colonization, classic totalitarian dictator 101. So that's one thing, is we're seeing that it's having a huge impact on immigrant communities, but at the same time, we're also seeing how this is impacting. I want to talk a little bit about how people have been comparing the previous administrations and the Trump administration. So something I want to be very clear about is that immigration crises didn't start with Trump. Trump is evil and he is ramping it up and he is doing things that are really going to lead to mass scale, basically concentration camps. Like he is heading down a path of just pure destruction, which I'll get into later. But I want to give a history of America to kind of explain how things were actually pretty bad in previous administrations as well. So under the Biden administration, not just Biden, but before that, Obama, before that, Bush, before Bush, so on, so on, so on. This has been kind of like the legacy of what America has been built on. And I just want to note the key difference. So while immigration numbers were higher, like deportations were higher, I think under Biden or under Obama versus Trump, what Trump is doing is um, very insidious for different ways. It's like two sides of the same coin. The system we all know is broken as a whole. It's been that way, right? So we saw super, super high deportation levels under Obama and Trump. I mean, under Obama and Biden. We're also seeing the same super high deportation levels under Trump. But it's two sides of the same coin, and I'll explain how they're different, how they're the same, and why they are both equally as insidious. Now, the reason they are both equally as insidious is because, one, what Obama did and what Biden did and Bush and all the other administrations was they were also doing these mass scale deportations, but it was going under the radar. So it was happening kind of silently. We weren't seeing it on the news. We weren't seeing spectacles, and it was just people, silently going missing from their communities or being targeted. Um, and I guess they were going through like the traditional paper route or red tape bureaucratic way. They were doing the traditional red tape bureaucratic way of deporting people, which is just equally as bad. Nobody should be getting deported. Like this is common common sense. So it's equally as bad and it's equally as insidious because this is happening in a secret way, right? This is happening in a way that's not being talked about. It's not reaching media. It's not getting coverage. And on top of that, it's red taped, it's bureaucratic. They're not just like coming in, it's very planned and strategic. Now, what Trump is doing is the same exact thing, but what makes it equally as insidious is that he is not only ramping up deportation, but he is waging a war on the mind, the body, and the soul. Psychologically, he's coming for psychological attacks. And I want to say the way that he's coming for psychological attacks is through media. Like we all been talking about this fatigue that everybody is feeling, which is, the fatigue of you are constantly being bombarded with a new executive order that takes away your right here, a new executive order that takes away your right here. So people are starting to feel a little bit hopeless, even though we are not hopeless. There's a lot that can be changed, but I'll get back to that later on how we can change and what impacts we can kind of make. Um, but yeah, so people are feeling hopeless, and what is so kind of like what Trump's doing that's a bit unique and a strategy. It's not a unique strategy because honestly, we saw Mussolini, Stalin, Hitler, Pol Pot, all of these dictators do the same exact thing. But what he's doing that's unique to modern time is that he is literally using the media as a tool to dehumanize. Um, and before we've seen people get dehumanized in the media in very covert ways, but now we're seeing people dehumanized in masses, right? So him rounding up again, using that word, the words that he uses to describe immigrant populations and the words that he uses to describe the way he's attacking immigrant communities is dehumanizing in itself. So when he's saying that he's rounding up immigrants and he's putting them on planes like cargo or like animals, he's treating people like animals and like cargo, and he's doing that very intentionally, and he's sending cameras there to show it very intentionally because he is trying to dehumanize populations to the American public. Now, of course, people are smart, so they can see through this, and nobody is actually going to like, I mean, except for his cult followers who are just literally cult. Like, there's nothing I can. If you're a Trump supporter, there's nothing I can say to save you. Like, you're gone. You're so far off the deep end, and you're not even in reality. You exist in hell. You are a layer of Dante's Inferno. So there's nothing I can say to that, but he's trying to convince the mainstream public, and luckily the mainstream public can see through it. But the words that he's using are very insidious. So when he's saying he's rounding people up in droves, or calling them aliens, or saying like we need to eradicate as if they're like rats or vermin, and like the way that he's treating these populations visually, seeing boards of people on a plane that doesn't even have seats, a plane that is literally a cargo plane full of people leaving the US and getting off in El Salvador or getting off in wherever people are being deported to, is the first act on white supremacy. That is the first step that he's taken as, a means to a tool of white supremacy, and that is to dehumanize so that his followers and people watching it can say, okay, technically these people, they're not like us, they're not like human, they're just, they're an objectified version of a human, or they're not like me in this way. So it's okay for them to be treated like that because they're the bad guy, I'm the good guy, and they're the evil, we're the good. He's saving us from the evil, he's protecting us, which by the way is how most, honestly, that's how most dictatorships, whether it's Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, Mussolini, that's how they operate. They use the guise of national security, and they use the term national security as a means to mass scale genocide. So everybody knows that, him using this term is like, oh, he's protecting us. He's trying to make American people feel unsafe so that he can come in and say, hey, I need to commit genocide against this person because it's for your safety. It's a national security threat. I need to get rid of TikTok because it's for your safety. It's a national security threat. I'll bring it back, but only if it's, we get rid of hashtags that are anti-Trump and anti this, and I'll give you guys what you want as long as it's censored, as long as it's not against anything that I don't stand for, and everything that he stands for is against you. Everything that he stands for is against us. Everything that he stands for is detrimental to the lives of Black, Indigenous, Brown, Asian, LGBTQ, women, any person of color, anybody who's not an old white man. an old white rich man. So even if you're an old white man, if you're poor, it's against you. So he is creating this sort of like guise of, hiding fascism under everything can be explained away under national security. Every right can be taken away because it's protecting you. It's for your safety. Do you want terrorists to come and kill us? Like, this is literally the sort of rhetoric that he uses, and it's disgusting. Um, it's very disgusting. But just to get back to what I was saying, he actually, he's using this rhetoric and he's describing people as like they're coming in drones and everything so that he can dehumanize. And it's sad to say, but it's working on his base, but everything works on his base. But what we have to do to kind of counter this and stay vigilant is we can no longer talk. We just have to move these conversations beyond the internet, right? Like, we have to start mutually organizing. We have to start building community, because I think a part of the hopelessness that we're feeling, that people are saying they're feeling, is because when you're constantly reading every day a new right is being taken away, a new executive order is happening, it does feel like the world is ending, and it does, you know, we're seeing these changes and we're feeling the impact that's having on us. But if we actually have a community where, maybe one person, their skill is they're really, really great at law, right? They're studying law. One person is really great at media. One person is really good at cooking. One person is studying, being a doctor and whatnot. This is how the Black Panther and different coalitions were formed. One person in each sector was learning to be great, if not already great, at what their respective field was. So whether you were an introvert or whether you were an extrovert, people had their exact roles and community that they were coming together and then like pretty much taking away the power of the government, because everything was just like based around mutual aid, mutual community, and mutual giving. And it was getting rid of the hierarchy of needing to access these institutions, because we already had it in our own communities. We already had this person here we could rely on. And that's how you start revolutions, is you have to take away the government's power, um, not just on a like social service level, but also financial level. So shorting stocks is another thing, boycotting is another thing. And really the main thing is hitting them where it hurts. That's all they care about, is their pockets and hitting them where it hurts. So getting rid of social services, not getting rid of social services, but circumventing, paid private social services is a good way to hit them financially. And there's also a bunch of other ways to hit them financially. And I'm going to get into the next video of like how we can do that in a country that is systemically taking away our ability to learn these skills. So like with them getting rid, using DEI as a code word, which is just, DEI right now is just a word, another word that Trump is using for the N word at this point. But them getting rid of DEI and getting rid of, you know, Black people and different groups of people who are working in these jobs, and trying to take away like different, deporting students and attacking education. I'm going to get into how we can circumvent that, so that we don't need to rely on these systems and we can just build our own stuff and, attack from the ground up. But I'll get into that in the next video. Um, but yeah, I would just say that those are kind of my suggestions for how we can fight against this. And I'm seeing directly the real impacts. I'm hearing directly the real impacts of what this is doing to immigrant communities. So like people not, like I said, not showing up to get health care, people being afraid to show up to court hearings, missing court deadlines because they don't know if ICE is going to try and like do a, a quick trick on them or not. So yeah, there's a big impact happening, but there's also a big way that we can fight it. Now, I'm going to move on to my next topic, and I'm going to actually, I have my laptop here because with this, I want to be very, very specific in what I am about to read. Um, Hold on one second. Let me fix I really want to fix the background. One second. Hold on. I need to just fix a quick tech issue. Hold on one sec. One second, guys. Hold on, guys. I'm just fixing a tech issue. Okay. Anyway, so as I was saying, with this, I'm gonna pull out my laptop because I want to be very specific in what I'm about to talk about. So I'm gonna read a few of my notes that I have here and a few facts that I have in front of me, and then I'm just gonna go off of those facts and talk a little bit about um, the parallels between Trump as a dictator and as a fascist dictator, and Hitler, Mussolini, Pol Pot, and Stalin. Now, first, I just want to start with the latest updates of what's been happening. So, as of today, February 28th, 2025, here's the latest updates of what Trump has been doing. And we'll call this series Tracking Trump because we need to track him. We need to do a lot more than that. We'll start tracking him. Okay. Now, first, we'll just get straight into what's happened as of today. So, as of today, here is the latest developments of what Trump is doing in America. First, we have mass firings at the National. Let me put my laptop in the frame so you guys can see me reading off of it. Okay. So, as of today, January 28th, 2025, we have mass firings at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA. So the Trump administration has dismissed hundreds of employees from NOAA, targeting mainly staff that constitutes about like 10% of the agency's workforce. Mainly probationary staff is who he was targeting, which is like 10% of their workforce. Um, Now that's the first thing that happened today. The second thing that happened today was judicial approval of CIA DEIA program firings. So, a federal judge, and I'm just going to read the news first and then I'm going to unpack it, but a federal judge has declined to halt the termination of 21 CIA officers involved in diversity, equity, inclusion, which is good. This was previously ordered by Trump. So a lot of those officers, I think, had like 19 years of experience. They had faced dismissal. So a judge is kind of blocking that right now. That's like the latest update. The government is kind of trying to do something to stop him, but not really. Next, we have the FBI leadership change and how it's changed too far right. So as we all know, Kash Patel was appointed not too long ago. I think just like a few days ago. So Kash Patel is super far right, super pick me, super like model minority, chip on his shoulder, like just wanting to be the pet to the white man. um, we also have, Patel. He implemented or he hired former federal defender. I say that with a joke because they're not defending. I can't curse, but they're not defending. Anti-terrorism prosecutor, anti-terrorism prosecutor in quotes, in the biggest quotes that you've ever heard in your life, air quotes, Dan Benigo. And Dan Benigo is an ex-police officer and ultra conservative podcast host. Now, he's also a bald man, and I want to get into how bald men should not own podcast mics. There's something about a bald man. I mean, bald men in general are just like, every bald man I've encountered has just been really mean and really nasty. And I feel like the linkage between loss of hair and nastiness and just like meanness, like something about the meanness just fries your hair follicles and it just makes them go bald. So without a podcast mic, they're already vicious. Add a podcast mic in the mix, you get Dana White, you get Dan Benigo, you get so many others. And Yeah, we need to start banning that. There needs to be a sign in Best Buy that bald men should not own, nor can they purchase podcast mics, or they will receive the electric chair. That would be the first order of business under my regime. Now, anyway, getting back to being serious, another change is changes in the Kennedy Center. So we all know that Trump became the new president of the Kennedy Center, and he just recently announced, I think not too long ago, that he plans to dismiss multiple board members of the John F. Kennedy Center. Um, and, he's appointed himself as chairman, and he is aiming to install what he says is all new leadership and his vision for the center. Now I'm going to get into unpacking those three things and how this is historically identical to what Hitler, Mussolini, Pol Pot, Stalin, and every dictator has always done in the beginning markings of their reign. Now, I'll start with Kash Patel. So Kash Patel, as soon as he took power, he employed an enemies list into the FBI, and that is something that is a real report. They created an enemies list, and I'll just, I'll get into talk a little about. I wrote down some points. So if you see me looking down, I'm just writing like what my thoughts are and my reportings for this. But basically, upon his appointment, Kash Patel initiated significant changes, including the development of the enemies list, targeting individuals within the agency who he perceived, when I say he, we mean Trump, him and Trump, as disloyal. So this approach actually directly mirrors what Hitler did in 1934, with what was known as the Night of Long Knives. That's what it was called. In 1934, there was an incident, a notable instance called the Night of Long Lives, the Night of Long Knives, which is a tongue twister, but it was basically where Hitler ordered the execution of all anybody who opposed him. So he had already been compiling this enemy list. That was the first order of business once he gained power. And what he did with that enemy list was, execution of potential threats, air quotes, because everyone was a potential threat to him. Um, and he executed everybody on that list, as well as the military. So this is an exact tactic that Hitler did back in 1934. Now, the appointment of Dan Benigo is also really, really similar to what Stalin did during Joseph Stalin's era, where loyalty to the leader was prioritized over expertise, leading to widespread purges within the military and intelligence sectors to remove those who he deemed, insufficiently loyal, or just anybody who wasn't a raging genocidal mass murderer Nazi. So yeah, that's the two parallels to that. Now next we're going to get into the parallels of reconstructing the Kennedy Center. So Trump appointing himself as leader of the Kennedy Center, and already he's saying he's appointing a new team, is directly parallel to what Hitler did in 1930 and 1940 Germany. So here's how. First, I want to say here's how he did it with, actually, sorry. So here's the breakdown. I'm gonna read what I've written here because it's easier for me to track my thoughts. So this parallels what happened in the persecution of the Moscow State Jewish Center back in 1919. And this the Goset, which was known as GOSET, was a prominent Yiddish theater in Moscow, and this was actually under Stalin's regime. So under Stalin's regime, the theater faced increasing repercussion, and eventually what happened was Stalin had the artistic director of the Goset assassinated. Right? His name was Solomon Miklos, and Stalin was really big on targeting the arts because he knew what impact arts, humanity, and culture could have on movements. He knew anybody with a brain knows that arts and entertainment and music, every form of art, whether it's textile, physical, digital, whatever medium has a huge, huge impact on revolutions, on messaging, on what people think, on what they believe, on what they say. Stalin knew this, and his first order of business was in 1917 to take control of the Soviets' version of the Kennedy Center, which was GOSET, GOSET, and assassinate the art director, um, Solomon Mikhails. And this was ordered by the Ministry of State Security, so this was state sanctioned murder, state sanctioned assassination in 1948. Shortly after that, the Soviet authorities ordered the closure of the Goset, effectively stifling any sort of like cultural expression and dissent. Next, we saw like this kind of spilled over into Stalin's like his museums of atheism. So Stalin's he had like a really big anti-religious campaign, which led to the closure and repurposing of numerous churches, synagogues, mosques. These religious sites were converted into museums of atheism, where religious artifacts were displayed devoid of their sacred context and aiming to kind of promote state atheism and undermine religious influence. Now, regardless of what your religious background is, I want to point this out because this is what Trump is doing on a cultural level. He is trying to get rid of all of these sort of cultural monuments so that he can control the minds of the people. And here's how he's doing it. The tactic that he's using is similar to what Hitler did in 1937 with the sort of degeneration of art exhibitions. And I'm going to read what I have written here just so it's more clear and more fluid. But basically, the Nazi regime organized the Degenerate Art Exhibit. This was the actual name of it. It was called the Degenerate Art Exhibit. And they organized that in 1937. And this was basically to like ridicule, poke fun of, make a joke, and condemn modern art, any modern art that didn't align with Nazi agendas. So this exhibition showcased works deemed as un-German or Jewish Bolshevik, intending to educate the public on what the regime considered inferior art. Um, so yeah, it showcased works of non-Nazis, but it was just put there to make fun of it. And currently, the Nazis promoted art that embodied Aryan ideals, and we're just using cultural institutions to propagate their ideology. Now, I want to say how this is happening. The link between what he did with this degenerate art exhibition and this fake art exhibition that Hitler did to how what Trump and his MAGA followers are doing on Twitter. We are seeing a lot, and what Elon Musk is doing. We are seeing a lot of bots that Elon Musk is using on Twitter, and a lot of just Twitter, and we're also seeing like Meta, like a lot of billionaires who are in the tech space, and this is why tech oligarchs are going to be the downfall of America. But a lot of tech oligarchs and billionaires who are in the tech space, like Elon Musk in particular, are using bots to kind of try to make human rights seem uncool. So, and that just sounds so crazy. Like you can tell an old white man came up with this plan because human rights will never be like just no thought, no logic. It's not clicking up there. It's not clicking up there. Um anyway, there's a lot of bots on Twitter who are like anytime somebody posts something that is advocating against Trump or advocating for basic human rights or just speaking up against things that are incredibly evil, these bots are sent out and they comment like, "Oh, wokeism." That's how you know it's a bot when they use wokeism or when they use like just some phrase. It's like a Chat GPT AI hate bot. They'll be like, "Oh, wokeism isn't cool anymore." Like this is how you know wokeism isn't like there was some tweet where I literally saw a bot reply to like a fake page replied to somebody who was calling out something that Trump did, and they replied, "This is how you know wokeism isn't cool anymore." Like, or it was something about like how influencers are doing more like trad wives and traditional things, and we're shifting more to be more conservative. And somebody responded like, "Yes, finally, like people are seeing like wokeism isn't it just isn't in anymore. Like it's just not a thing." And when I read that, I just laughed because I was like, uh, you mean to tell me people fighting for their rights to survive, to live, to breathe, it's just not cool. Like, it's just not it. So yeah, that's what blew me, and that I just want to parallel to what Hitler is doing, or what Hitler did back in 1937 when he did the Degenerate Art Exhibition. He took power of an art exhibit that was filled with cultural art and different artistic expressions from all around the world. And because it didn't align with Nazi Aryan belief, he then took that art, he left it in the museum. Although he was the art director, he left it in the museum, but he created like a degenerate art exhibit to kind of poke fun at it and say, this is not cool, this is not in, like, this is like basically creating propaganda, right? And we are seeing Elon Musk and the tech oligarchs create that same propaganda through Twitter spaces, through different communities online, where they're trying to say that, oh, it's not cool to for wokeism, or it's not cool to speak up for your rights. Like, oh, or like we're trying, it's people are becoming more conservative, like influencers are doing trad wife stuff, and just this weird sort of justification for all of their evilness. And I think that is mainly done to appeal to a much younger crowd. They're trying to get like the baby MAGA people involved, like the baby little TikTok Adolfs. um, Adolf baby Hitlers that are running around on Twitter and TikTok and preaching eugenics and other just crazy weird things. I think that's what those bots are meant to do. And that's exactly what Hitler and Stalin did as well. They targeted the youth who were easily impacted by, you know, culture and art museums, and they made that degenerate art museum the same way that Twitter has just become one long stage and one long degenerate art museum. If you could think of Twitter as a physical space, think of it as the 1937 degenerate art exhibit in under Hitler's Germany. That is literally what Twitter has become. That's it. Next, we have this is also similar to like Benito Mussolini's and fascist cultural policies. So in 1925, Mussolini's government founded the La Union Cinematografica Educativa, which is basically the short form is LUCE, and that was just meant to oversee and control cinematic productions in Italy. So the institute focused on creating educational films and documentaries to promote fascist ideals, ensuring that the cinema served as a tool for political propaganda. And the same thing happened in 1938 Nazi Germany, um, as well as in um, under Mussolini as well. So Mussolini enacted racial laws that discriminated against different ethnic groups, and these laws led to the execution of many intellectuals from cultural institutions. But I want to get into the establishment of the LUCE and how uh, Mussolini targeted specifically cinema and documentaries, because we are seeing sort of like this military industrial complex in Hollywood ramp up, where we're seeing there's like some film about the Iraq War out that is painting Iraq War troops as like heroes and ignoring completely all the war crimes, carnage, damage, R word, N word, K word, everything that was done during the Iraq War, and painting them as like heroes who were like, of course, fighting the evil brown villains. So yeah, yeah, that is exactly what Mussolini did in 1925 when he founded the LUCE. He took control of the cinema and their version of Hollywood. Um, and I think what makes a difference is that their version that they're taking over is not really fully the cinema in Hollywood. And when I say they're, I mean Trump and the oligarchs. Their version of what they're taking over is social media. So they are literally using social media as a mass blast of misinformation. The same way the propaganda was spread through television back then, now it's all spread through online social media platforms that are ran by tech oligarchs that are far right Nazis. Okay, next I want to get on to the next point. Actually, I think I kind of talked about all my points. Um, just how all of this is really, really similar to what Pol Pot, Mussolini, Stalin, and Hitler were doing many, many years back. And just going back to the Kennedy Center, I think an example of what Pol Pot did that was similar to Trump taking over the Kennedy Center would be, when under the Khmer Rouge, especially in 1975, Pol Pot first started off with declaring it as Year Zero. And under Year Zero, he quite literally said that he aimed to eradicate existing cultural, um, and historical information and education. He said that he wanted to do a reset of Cambodian society. And Trump keeps using these same words and the same terminologies as resets, right? He's keeps saying he's going to make America great again. He's going to do a reset. He's going to change everything. And this is exactly what Pol Pot said in 1975 when he did the killing fields, right before he did the killing fields, where he declared Year Zero. He took over the cultural center. Trump took over the Kennedy Center. It said he was going to clear out the staff and hire all new staffs that agreed, that would show make America. I think he said he was going to hire all new staff that showed the old great America, which we know is just going to be a lot more. Fascist propaganda now spewing through the art field. Um, and Pol Pot did this through first the destruction of cultural institutions, and he started targeting getting rid of books, artifacts, and then he started just persecuting intellectuals point blank. Even if you physically, it got to a point where even if you physically just had on glasses, that was associated back then during Pol Pot's reign as being an intellectual or maybe being a red herring for you being a student. Like that could have maybe been an identifier that you were an intellectual or a student. Um, I mean, hey, F prescription glasses, right? But F poor eyesight, that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, they would basically just target and kill even if you had a look like you were educated. So if you had glasses, if you spoke another language, they would kill you. And I think this is the direction that we are headed in, not just, I use that as an example, but it's not just targeting people who are in higher education or people who are students. It's targeting everybody. It's targeting rich, I'm sorry, it's not targeting rich, but it's targeting Black, Indigenous, Asian, LGBTQ, women, poor, like every single box you can think of is going to be targeted, and it's going to be systematic and systemic in the same way that this was systematically and systemically done by Hitler, Mussolini, Pol Pot, and Joseph Stalin. And it is stoppable, it is preventable, and there's a number of ways that we can prevent it. And I got into a little bit earlier in this video, but I'm going to get into more solutions next video. But I just want to end this video by saying that, like, things are not, although things are doom and gloom, they're not really all doom and gloom. Like, we are at a pivotal point where we can change this, and it's all based on community organizing and really starting like an underground revolution. And that is really what's necessary at this point. We have to build our system from the ground up outside of their own system, and that's how you take them down. And when I say take them down, I just mean like remove them from power and take their power away. I don't want that to be misinterpreted, to mean anything else. But yeah, so yeah, I just want to say that there's a lot of solutions that are coming, but if you're reading stuff, don't feel media fatigue. Don't feel like I feel hopeless or something new happening every day. I can't keep up with this. Like, I'm just going to shrink up. Don't shrink up. Get louder. Expand. Expand. Use this time to expand. And that is so important. I want to send that message to everybody today. Expand in all the big ways and small ways that you can today. And don't let anybody stop you from pursuing what you want, and apply that to your everyday life first. And we're going to get into later how that can be applied on a bigger scale to, stop those sort of injustices that we're seeing around us. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody. I think I've only have one viewer on, so I just want to thank you to the one viewer who's watching. I can't see your name, but I just want to thank you for like sticking through and watching this. Even just one person means a lot. And even just one person in a movement or revolution can make such a big difference. So yeah, if you're watching this, just know that we got each other, and we can, we can fight through this, and we are gonna fight through it. But yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for supporting, and I'll be live